Hello and welcome to my controls guide for the Thrustmaster T.Flight Hotas 1/Hotas X. These are the same controller, just one is targeted at the Xbox audience and one is targeted at a PlayStation audience, but they're both available for PC and consoles. I'm going to go over all the controls that I have mapped for these for this controller, and hopefully it helps you with your control schemes and your flying in Flight Simulator. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So first of all, to access the controls, we hit escape, go into the settings menu, and we hit controls. And then on this left hand menu, we hit the T-Flight. Yours might say Hotas 1, mine says Hotas X, and when you click it, you'll have a picture of it here to confirm which that you are on the correct control. The first thing you want to do is hit this cog, hit duplicate, name the duplication, and then select apply to all aircraft and set as default. So I've also already done this for these two profiles. You want to do it on the general controls and on the main controls. You can do it on the specific Skyhawk or whichever plane controls, and that just means that controls that you change on that profile will only make changes to that plane. I've already done that, so I will escape. And you will be shown this menu. The next thing you want to do is get a pen and a piece of paper, and we are going to go make sure that we know which axis on the joystick and the thruster are named what. So we're going to hit search by input, and I'm going to pull the stick to the left. It'll give me the name of the left and right axis, so that is L axis X. I will write that down. Again, hit search by input. I will pull back on it, and that is L axis Y, and search by input, twist the joystick, and that gives us R axis Z, and then search by input and push the throttle all the way forward. And that gives us L axis Z, and the last one we want to do is search by input and the toggle and a rocker switch on the back of the throttle. I'm going to push that, and that is slider X. I have them wrote down. I'll have them labelled to which each of them are, and that will just make it easier for setting sensitivities and the actual controls. So I will filter here by assigned, and I will just go down all of these and switch between this view and the cockpit view to show you what these are referencing. So the first control I've got set is the decrease autopilot reference altitude and the increase autopilot altitude. So I have these set as button 8 plus POV down. The POV is the hat switch on the left side of the controller down here. So when I press and hold the button 8, which is the one by your thumb on the throttle, pull down on that hat switch, it will increase the reference altitude for the autopilot. Push it up, it will increase it. Pull it down, it will decrease it. The next one I have is toggle autopilot flight level change, and that again, I press and hold button 8 and press number 4, which is the right hand button here next to the hash button on the throttle. That will toggle the flight level change mode on. And I have toggle autopilot heading hold, and I have that press and hold button 8 and push the middle striped button on the throttle. And also got set autopilot current heading as that same input. So when I double press that button, it puts the autopilot in heading mode and changes the heading bug to the current way the plane is facing. Next one I have for the autopilot is toggle autopilot master, and that is just button 2, and that is the striped button. Then I have decrease autopilot reference airspeed, increase autopilot reference airspeed. Click this. This is set as holding button 8 and joystick slider X plus. So to set this, if you're struggling to set it, you can just go back, press this settings cog, and just select the two inputs you want. So button 8 up and slider X, because if you try and actually do it by going on to, I'll show you as an example here, say in here, press and hold that and press this, it might just try set it as the whole slider, which is not what you want. Delete any of the findings you have, you just hover over it, and on a PC press delete. So for these two, press this settings, I select button number 8, and slider X, and that means when I press the rocker switch one way, it will increase the reference speed. And then I've got the other one, button 8, and slider X minus. Then I have, these aren't autopilot, so I'll go into the cockpit now and show you what these do physically in the plane. In the cockpit here, if I hold button 8 and press the hat switch up, you can see here it's setting the autopilot altitude and increasing it in increments of 100. Pull the hat switch down while still holding button 8, decrease the reference altitude. If I press 8 and double press the middle button, you can see here, press it again, it's put it in heading mode, and it's synchronized the heading bug with the way that we are facing. Then if I hold button 8, press the hat switch right, it will move that blue bug to the right, and to the left, it will move it to the left. And then press and hold button 8 and press number 4, it puts us in flight level change mode. Then I press and hold button 8, change the rocker switch. If I press it to the left, it will increase the targeted speed here. And if I press it to the right, it will decrease it. So these bindings are useful because it means you're not having to take your hands off the throttle and the stick to change some of the key autopilot settings. You're not having to grab hold of your mouse or use your controller to try select these buttons down here. While you're flying, you can just do it all while keeping your hands on the throttle and the stick. So the next setting we're just going to ignore for now. This is a standard setting that's set up. It's toggle G limiter and it's only for certain planes, so we don't have to worry about that for now. The next setting I have is elevator trim down and elevator trim nose up. So I've got these again set to joystick slider X, joystick slider X minus. This is the rocker switch on the other side of the throttle here, and this will change the elevator trim. So if we go back into the cockpit, and you can look down here at the trim, or if you want to, you can look down at the trim wheel, press that slider one way and it will move the trim wheel one way, and I press it the other way and it moves the slider the other way. I have this set on the throttle because normally your trim you use to increase and decrease your cruising speed, and I like being able to do that, being able to pitch up the plane and not have to use a button on the actual joystick. So I can just hold that pitch and move the trim. Back into the settings here. Carrying on going down, I've got decrease flaps as button 9, which is the bottom button on the back of the controller on the throttle, and increase flaps as 10. And this is important for the while you write down your rudder your axis for your joystick. So I've got rudder axis as R axis Z, so that's twisting the joystick. I've got ailerons as joystick axis X, see that up here, and I've got elevator axis as joystick L axis Y. For these, I don't think I've got any of them inverted, so no, that one's not inverted. That one's not inverted. And that one's not inverted. And I've got my landing gear as button number 7, so that's the bottom of the 3 buttons on the right hand side of the throttle. And I've got this is the decrease and increase heading bug for the autopilot. Toggle afterburners I've got set as button 4, so that's mainly for the kind of the fighter jets. Button number 4 on the throttle I normally use as kind of a set button for specific actions, so afterburners, spraying in the spray planes, the hooks for the hook planes, letting the tail come out for the advertising planes, stuff like that. I always have set as button 4, so I know that if there's a specific action for a specific plane, probably going to be set on button 4. Parking brakes I've got set as button 6, which is the middle button of the 3 on the right hand side. Left brake axis and right brake axis, I don't think I actually know what they are. And what's that? Joystick R axis Y. I'm assuming that's probably set something to do with the twisting of the rudder, but I've not set them. They're default set, so I'm not sure what they are. On to the next one, which is brakes. So brakes is set as button 1, which is the trigger on the joystick. Again, toggle spray for spray paint, set to button number 4. Firefighter emissions, toggle scoops or doors, set to button 4. throttle axis, joystick L axis is E. So that's so to set this, you press the button and you push the throttle. Make sure you push it all the way forward so it picks up the actual axis for it. Cockpit external view, I've got set as button 11, which is the left hand of these silver buttons down here. Cockpit quick view right, I've got just pushing the hat switch to the right. Cockpit quick view left, I've got pushing the quick view, the hat switch to the left. Reset cockpit view, I've got as button number 5, which is the top of the three buttons. Previous pilot position, I've got pulling the hat switch down. Next pilot position, pushing the hat switch forward. Reset external view, also set as button number 5. All these are your external views, so these are normally self-explanatory, apart from the left and right, so not self-explanatory. Look down is down, look up is up, and then left and right. I've got them reversed, and I'm not sure why, but for some reason, when I set these up, and I'll just go back into the cockpit here, when I go into the external view by pressing the button we set for it, when I was pushing the hat switch to the right, it was orbiting it and looking to the left. So all I did was switch these, ensure that it's going the right way and more counterintuitive when you're on the outside of the plane. The settings, to the controls, and hitting assigned. For these kind of up left and up right, it's sometimes tricky to do this with a hat switch. So that again, press the cog, scroll down, and they will be on here for the ones that you need to select. Sometimes it's easy just to toggle that like this. So we'll go back. Toggle instrument view, I've got set as button 12. So that is this button here. Again, grapple hook set as my action button, button number 4. Toggle lead pull. That's a default setting, so I'll set that as button 4 as well. These I don't actually use, so I'm going to delete these. These are for skydiving missions. All these next ones are for when you are outside the plane and walking about. So again, it's just rotating the axis, rotating the rudder to turn the view left and right, and then self-explanatory for the views. Interact is button number 2. Move left and right is just set up. So if I wanted to, I could use the joystick to move the actual player about, then toggle crouch and toggle run. If we go back into the cockpit here, you can see that with that instrument view, I can quickly press it to get straight to my Garmin from outside, and when I press it again, it will take me back outside. So I'm not having to go back into here and try and select the pilot position. I can just press straight there, and then I can press the hat switch left and right to switch between the instrument views and just toggle between them. And I press it again, and I'm back in the cockpit view, and then reset with the reset button. Double check that I did go over the camera onto the instrument views, and yeah, you can see previous and next instrument view are just set to left and right and the point of view switch. So that just means that when we are in the instrument views, like I say, push the hat switch left and right, and it'll left or right, and it'll just toggle through all of the instrument views to the one that you need. Press it again, it'll take you back to the view you're at before. But I will get the plane in the air, and I will just show you some of these in action. Here we are in the external view of the plane. Taxiing, I just push the throttle forwards, set that up, twist the joystick, and it will turn the rudder and let us turn while taxiing. Press that top button to reset the view to go behind. Need to apply any brakes. I've set it up with the trigger, so I just pull the trigger and the plane will brake. So here we are, set up at the end of the runway. I'll go back into the cockpit view. Say I was wanting to autopilot this takeoff. So, increase the flaps, 10%. What I'd do then is hold button 8 and double press the middle button, ensuring that it says heading here on the autopilot. Blue bug is facing the way that we are facing. If the blue bug wasn't, I could hold button 8 and push the hat switch to the left or right just to move that blue bug. I would then ensure that we're in flight level change mode by holding button 8 and pressing button number 4 on the joystick. And while holding button number 8, I would press that rocker on the back of the throttle to set our climb speed to 75 knots, or whatever the knots is, the speed is for optimum climb speed for the plane that you are in. There we go, 75. Then hold button 8 and set the altitude we want to climb to. So this one will climb to 2,000 feet. And then ensure that the parking brake is off. Go. Push the throttle all the way forwards. Use the joystick to turn the rudder. Keep us lined up. And when we get to 55 knots, gently pull back on that stick. Do a crosswind. And then I get to about this point. Decrease my flaps to 0. Hit the middle button on the joystick. An autopilot would be engaged, and it is basically going to fly that heading bug and climb to the selected altitude, 2,000 feet. If I wanted to climb faster, I could hold button 8 and rock that switch to change the speed down. The other way to increase the speed, and then again just change the altitude or the heading marker. And this means I'm not having to do this without taking my hands off the throttle or the joystick. And if we weren't flying autopilot, I would then just use that rocker on the back of the throttle just to decrease or increase the trim, get our kind of cruising speed, and ensure that we're cruising like level and steady. One thing to show you is how to change the sensitivity on the joystick mainly, normally never on the throttle. So you hit hardware settings here. Here you can see, this is why it's good to note down which stick and which axis is which. Because I've got axis X, I've decreased the sensitivity just so it's a bit more, feels a bit more tactile when you're using it. Done the same with joystick Y, so that's left, right, up and down. Z is not changed on L-axis Z, so that will be my throttle. R-axis Z, which is the rudder, which is turning left and right. I've put a little bit of a dead zone in there and I've decreased it so it's not as juddery when you try and use the rudder. Slider axis, or slider X, which is the rocker on the back of the throttle, not changed any of the sensitivity. One last thing to note is that if you are having trouble with the rudder and it feels like it's not setting, or when you twist the joystick it's not working, ensure that the button above the two silver buttons on the throttle half of the controller, the top one that has a light, ensure that that light is showing green so you're in 5-axis mode and not 4-axis mode. So there we go. I hope this has helped some people. Any controls that you want me to re-go over, let me know, and at some point I will be doing a similar video but for my controls for the helicopters in Flight Simulator. I will speak to you in the next one.